Good afternoon, and welcome to CNU Talks, live at lunch. I'm Baxter Vendrick, and I will once again be your moderator for today. This monthly series is brought to you by the Christopher Newport Alumni Society in partnership with the Office of Alumni Relations. This series will bring to you different members of the Christopher Newport community to discuss a variety of topics of interest, from coaches to professors to alumni doing some pretty incredible things. We hope we bring forth things that truly speak to you. Now, some of these will take place on Zoom, like today, while there'll be others hosted by regional alumni chapters, like next month. We began in January with President Bill Kelly, and last month, we learned so much about the incredible Community Captains Program from fellow Captain for Life, Brandon Jones, and in this month, we bring to you the Director of the Center of Community Engagement, Vanessa Buehlman. As you all know very well, service is woven into the fabric of captains and such a critical element of the CNU experience, as well as leading a life of significance. Originally from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Vanessa is a community engagement professional with over 15 years of experience in higher education. For the last 5 years, she has served as the director of CNU's Center for Community Engagement and the Bonner Service Scholar Program. And in this capacity, she oversees student engagement in the local nonprofit sector, builds nonprofit partner relationships, supports faculty, community-based research, and community-engaged teaching and learning, and manages the Bonner Service Scholarship Program. She holds a BA degree in economics and English from Dickinson College and a master's degree in business administration from the University of Maryland University College. Prior to her current position, she served as the center's coordinator for 5 years, and before that, as an institutional effectiveness and assessment specialist at the Virginia Peninsula Community College, and as a long-distance learning course development specialist for City Colleges of Chicago. Buehlman has presented and published on the unique role center-based models play in supporting students' self-directed learning and on the impact of community engagement on student development. The highlight of her career has been working with CNU students and witnessing the transformative power of service and community-engaged learning in their development as active citizens. She's going to begin today with sharing some thoughts, and once you have some questions, begin to write those into the Q&A area located to the right of your screen. Once Vanessa and her special guests are ready for questions, I'll read some of those that have come along, and the session will be recorded for everyone, and we will be sharing that with the entire community of Christopher Newport captains at another time. And with that, I turn it over to Vanessa.
All right. Wow. What an introduction. Thank you so much, Baxter. It is an absolute honor to have been invited to even be here today. And our special guest is one of our magnificent students, Caroline Burrows. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Caroline. I'm a senior at Christopher Newport right now. I'm in the Bonner Service Scholar Program as one of the Bonner leadership team members. And yeah, so I'll be graduating in May. Super exciting.
And I've already failed on the introduction because Burrows is Caroline's maiden name.
Yes.
So yes.
Caroline Jungers.
Caroline Jungers. So we are just thrilled to be here and able to talk about the culture of service at CNU, and then more specifically, even the deeper community engagement work that happens here. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit and talk about broadly what the center does. And hopefully I can do that quickly so we can really dive into one of our most impactful programs, which is the Bonner Service Scholar Program. And I know that the folks joining us today will absolutely want to hear from Caroline and her experiences in the program. I also want to say hello to everyone joining us here today. Thank you for, I guess, probably taking your lunch with us today. We're really glad that you're with us. I am going to say that if you hear dogs barking in the background, they're therapy dogs. right out my window in the atrium of the David Student Union. So it's a very lively atmosphere out there. So just letting you know that there are some really cute puppies out there, and you might hear them as we're talking. I started here at Christopher Newport in January of 2014. And I came in and I started working in the center, and I came into the center really thinking I knew all about service, right? I had gone out and volunteered and felt like I'd done all these incredible things to help in the community. And undoubtedly what I did was helpful on some level, but I was completely blown away by the level of opportunities and supports and programming around community engagement. For those of you out there watching who are probably maybe around my age, that was not a thing when I was in school, and I'm guessing for the rest of you who were in school around that time. It was not a thing. There were not centers for community engagement. My friends and I don't think it ever crossed our mind that we go out and serve in the local community. And I think it's a beautiful thing that over the years, higher ed has moved into that arena, because, you know, all of us here on campus, it's not just our jobs to educate our students, but it's also to help them develop right into these not just to educated and engaged, civically responsible human beings, right, that go out and do wonderful things in their communities wherever they are. So I learned very quickly that very first day that I actually had no idea that I may not have been serving my community in the best and healthiest way. And at the time, the center's director, Captain for Life, Brad Brewer, very first day on the job, I remember sitting with him and we're talking about community engagement and what it means to really work in the community in a healthy and ethical way. And I just looked at him, I said, I thought I knew how to do this, and everything I know was wrong. And he said, well, I'm sorry, but this job is going to ruin your life, because what you learn and what you experience, you can never unlearn and unsee. And that has been true in the very best way ever since. So as Baxter said, service is just embedded in Christopher Newport. And what is extremely true is that that's not just lip service. That is not just, I think a lot of institutions and organizations say, we have a culture of service. But is that true? Is the work really there behind it? And 100% it is at Christopher Newport. Some examples from the day, our first year, from the first week, our first year students come on campus, we have day one of service. So we're automatically sending out hundreds and hundreds of our first year students right out into the community. And we're saying, hey, yes, you're at Christopher Newport, but your address isn't Christopher Newport University, Virginia. It's Newport News, Virginia. And that the community that we live, work, study, and play in is important. And getting out there and engaging in it is an important part of your time at CNU. We also have things like our Food for Thought campaign that we do every year, and that's a campus-wide food drive initiative partnering with the Virginia Peninsula Food Bank. And I pulled up some fun numbers. We just celebrated our 16th annual Food for Thought campaign. We come together every year as a campus to get non-perishable foods, but also monetary donations. And in that time, we have raised over 375, we've collected over 375,000 pounds of food, and that equates to almost 300,000 meals. I mean, it's incredible how the campus really comes together. Since 2013, that was the first year that we actually started recording service hours on campus. So this is only from the recorded hours. And so you can imagine how many hours haven't been recorded. Our students have served over 650,000 hours. And according to Independent Sector, that equals over $16 million worth of service and support to our community. It's really an incredible number. One thing that happened to us all that really showed me the depth of the commitment to service of our students and our campus was COVID. How in the heck do you serve during a lockdown and quarantine. How does that even happen? You know, when it first happened, I thought, well, what are we going to do? Like, how does that even work? Can it work? And we were very blessed to have wonderful colleagues throughout the Bonner Network, we have a group called Virginia Engage, so that's community engagement professionals at other Virginia institutions, and very lucky to have those folks to meet with and talk with. And we provided a plethora of remote service opportunities to our students, as well as community engagement activities that would support our students' understanding of what's happening in the community, and to inform either more deeply inform the work they'd already done in the community, or to inform the work they do when we finally got back out there. And prior to COVID, we have something called the Service Distinction Program that I can talk a little bit more about later. We had 30% of our students in 2018 and 2019 graduate with service distinction honors. So that's serving at least 140 hours in the local community during their time at Christopher Newport. So 1 in 3 of our students was graduating with those honors. And even after COVID, our 5-year average is still at 25%. Yes, there was a small drop in hours, but we went from students serving maybe 100,000 hours a year to 75. It was remarkable at a time when our students could have said, yeah, no, we can't do that, right? We were all going through our own COVID things. So the fact that our students still made that a priority is remarkable. And I think that's the time that I really realized that CNU is special. Like, our students are in it. That is clearly been set as an expectation. Also at admissions events, I get asked a lot by prospective families if service is a requirement at CNU. And I honestly believe that is partly from just that kind of expectation and the interwovenness of service into our mission, into our messaging, into everything we do. But it's not enough, I think, for a university to say or to promote service. It's up to the students to follow through. And that is where our alumni have absolutely set the standard, right, in a very high one, for what is expected of a captain while they're here at CNU, and even what's expected from them after they leave CNU. I was really thrilled with this year's CNU Day, with the idea of encouraging our alumni, faculty, staff to not just, give of their treasure, which is absolutely wonderful and so needed, but that they were encouraged to talk about and submit the time that even beyond their time at CNU, that they still give to their community, and how they're bolstering the communities that they're in. It is so important and so impactful for our current students to hear about what our alumni are doing, both what our alumni did while they were here, but what they're still continuing to do in their lives, because I think it makes our little bubble all of a sudden get a whole lot bigger. Like, it's not just what you're doing here and now, you're part of something much bigger. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So I think the idea of service and the culture of service is definitely what drew me to CNU to begin with. And that is a tradition. I mean, we are a campus of traditions, right? That's what we do. So the idea that service and the expectation that you will work in your community and that you will be an active part of the place you're living for 4 years was such an impactful thing. And that was completely laid out by the alumni before me. And it was something that made this campus so inviting and so welcoming. And it made it so much less intimidating to find something that you're interested in doing and commit to doing it, because everybody around you is doing the same thing also.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's really exciting about our culture of service right now is I watched President Kelly's CNU talk, and I've heard him talk countless times already. And when he says he is all in, he is all in. That's not a fun tagline at all. He and Angie are all in, not just for our students, for our campus community, but for the community in which we all reside. I mean, they are on board and have embraced our community in really beautiful new ways. Today was actually the second community walk that President Kelly has hosted. So a whole group of community leaders, community members, CNU community members, faculty, staff, everyone went out. The first time they went out and walked to Riverside Elementary, very close by, and today they walked out to Heidenwood. Is that elementary? Yes. And were greeted by students and by teachers. And it was just a really special moment to show in yet another way how connected we are with the community. And I know that community engagement is a really big part of President Kelly's and the university's plan moving forward. So President Kelly's leading us through a planning process called the Strategic Compass, which will be our new strategic plan moving forward. And community engagement's all over it. Community engagement is really an important part of bolstering our curriculum, teaching and learning. It's part of DEI, right? Any opportunity our students have to go out off campus and work with people who are different than them really informs their respect for diversity and inclusion, and the idea of equity for all who they meet and how they move through their communities and society moving forward. And of course, I think President Kelly mentioned the campus being this community hub. And it's so important as a public regional university that we can be that hub with the community. So CNU is definitely a center of knowledge in our community. We're not the center of knowledge. So bringing the community onto campus where we can work with them, especially as we're talking about addressing critical societal issues. It's like the expertise is out there. The folks, our community partners, have been doing this work for a long time. So opening up our campus as a safe and welcoming space for them to come where we can work together is a beautiful thing. And I'm excited to see that as part of our strategic plan moving forward. So we can talk about it all day because it's amazing and exciting. Oh, I left out one important thing. I'm going to try to do this fast. The other place where CNU is truly distinctive in this work is that service is not just a nice value or culture at CNU. Service or community engagement is one of the 4 pillars of a CNU education. And our previous provost, Dr. Dave Dowdy, created these 4 pillars that elevate a CNU education, right? Take our academics, take it to a new level. And they are 4 high impact experiential learning practices. So that's study abroad, that's internships, why am I forgetting the other one? Undergraduate research and community engagement. And I will say from going and visiting 15 schools with my son when he was looking at, I know it's a crazy number, looking for colleges, from visiting other schools and with colleagues at other schools, we always heard about internships, study abroad, undergraduate research opportunities. And we always heard about service as an aside. And I really think Christopher Newport got it right when they put community engagement on the same level as those other 3 pillars as an experiential learning opportunity that can really set our students apart. And you'll see how impactful that is, because that is all what the Bonner program is about. But when we're talking about community engagement as a pillar, we are talking about moving away from that kind of one-time episodic service that we may be so familiar with. An example I use, it's moving away from volunteering at the food bank for a couple hours and sorting some food to returning to the food bank to serve every week, building relationships there, building trust. They learn about you and what skills you bring. Let's say you're a student there who's a marketing major. Oh, you know what? It'd be great if you could work with our communications folks. And then all of a sudden that student is in working behind the scenes in more of a capacity building job. And they're building real world marketable experiences that are also informing their classwork, the work for their major, and possibly for their future career. So it's really cool that CNU also recognized the importance of that. So quickly, let's talk about the center. The center really is here. We're the center for all service on our campus. Our biggest job is to help our students to serve in the community, to make it accessible to them, our number one challenge is and always has been transportation. So through different programs we have through some of our student staffing, we try to find ways to ease their entry into the community and really make it accessible for all, regardless of whether or not they have their own transportation or not. It's also our job not just to provide service opportunities, but to provide meaningful opportunities that are impactful for the student and for our community partners. The other thing that the center does that some people may not be as familiar with is that we support faculty and community engaged learning. So we work with those faculty who use community engaged learning as a component of their classroom. And that includes both welcoming the community into their classroom and working with their students and a community partner outside of the classroom work, working on a community identified or requested need, which just adds a whole other dimension to that in-classroom work. So I mentioned offering meaningful opportunities and impactful opportunities as well. So we do offer a bunch of programs. I will not bore you with all of them right now. I don't have enough time and we want to talk to Caroline, but please visit our website, cnuengage.org. You can see a database of all of the nonprofit partners we work with. We currently work with 112 local nonprofit government agencies and of course public school system. So you can go through there and see all of the wonderful folks our students are working with. Approximately half of our student population serves in some capacity at the very least that we know of that are recorded each year. And an average of our students serve an average of 90 with an average of 90% of our 112 community partners each year. So it's really incredible that our students are out that broadly in the community across so many different kinds of nonprofit organizations. We have a bunch, like I said, a bunch of programs. Like Brandon talked about last week, we love supporting the really good community engagement work happening with the community captains. We also work with the Center for Career Planning to support their short-term high impact internship program, the SHIP program, which gives our students short-term internship opportunities with both not-for-profit and for-profit organizations, but the vast majority are not-for-profit. And this year's SHIP program has 37 projects, mostly with nonprofit partners that our students can apply for and get connected with to have this internship opportunity right after finals end, so they can focus on that as their summer gets started. I mentioned Service Distinction Honors. The other program I wanted to mention is the Tidewater Faculty Fellows Program. So that is a community engaged learning program that takes a cohort of faculty, and our academic director, Dr. Brooke Covington in the English department, she directs that program. And it's really this cohort moving through a year-long process of developing a course with community engaged learning in it. And we are on our second cohort this year, and they are doing phenomenal work in the community. And I've already talked to Baxter. I said, you need someone else on the show down the way. Definitely have Brooke on and some of her faculty, because they and their students are doing incredible work out in the community. Brooke Covington also directs our minor in civic engagement, social justice. That's housed here in the center. And we also have community-based research fellowships. It's a year-long fellowship where our students can work out in the community with a community partner and faculty mentor. But I can't say it's our favorite program, but it's definitely our most impactful program and one that we love. Christopher Newport is extremely honored to be one of only 70 colleges and universities across the United States that has a Bonner Service Scholar program. The Bonner Foundation is located in Princeton, New Jersey, and Mr. and Mrs. Bonner created this program. They both came from very meager means growing up in the Appalachian region of the United States. But Mr. Bonner had a real mind for real estate, and they ended up accumulating a lot of wealth. And when the time came for them to consider what they were going to do with that wealth, Mr. Bonner, I love this story, wanted to buy the Yankees. And I love thinking about what this conversation went like with Mrs. Bonner going, oh, honey, we are not going to do that. We are going to do something very intentional with our money. And they created the Bonner program with the tagline, access to education, opportunity to serve. So the idea is that the program would provide financial support to college students to help them pay for college and be able to go to college. And in return for that financial support, those students serve in the local community. And the way our Bonner program works is we accept up to 10 incoming first-year students per year, and it is a 4-year developmental program. So those students commit to being in the program for 4 years. They serve 250 hours per academic year. It's about 8 to 10 hours on average per week. It's like a part-time job. But here's where the program, I think, is really special. Those are not random 8 to 10 hours per week. We work with 10 specific local nonprofit organizations that are our Bonner partners. So these are partners who have committed really to be co-educators of our Bonner scholars. And our Bonners are placed with one of those partners, and they are with that partner for the entire time they're in the program. So by the time they've explored the partners and are placed, it's like a 3.5-year internship with that partner. And there's a lot more to the program that I would love to explain. Again, you can see the information on our website, but I'd really love to turn it over to Caroline so you can hear about it from her.
Yes, so as Vanessa was saying, we, as Bonner Scholars, starting in our first year, we are connected with a community partner, and we're doing that based on our academic interests, our personal interests, our passions, our ability, our skills, things like that. And we are connected to a partner that has those exact needs. So my first year, I was connected with Free Kind, which is an anti-trafficking organization in Hampton. And right off the bat, I was involved in some really incredible opportunities. So the first thing they had me working on was researching the feasibility for a problem-solving court for specifically survivors of human trafficking in Norfolk, Virginia. Um, and it ended up not being feasible, but through about 2 years of research, we found that out and then could work towards a different goal. So as a first-year student, I was researching legal systems. And then as a second-year student, I was researching recidivism and the impacts that the criminal justice system can have on survivors of trafficking, and kind of the evasiveness that human trafficking has in every community, not just abroad, not just these big cities, but everywhere that you could be. But I also was mentored. I was in the process of so I'm a social work major, social work student with a leadership minor, and I was in the process of working alongside case managers and community partners and the director of a nonprofit to do this direct hands-on service work with both survivors and with grant writing and with grant research and all of those things included. So the actual service side of Bonner is so impactful both on me and on the community partner that I was serving without having somebody committed to do those 8 to 10 hours a week with that partner. There are projects that those limited nonprofit staff would have been really struggling to get done and struggling to complete, but had to get done in order to kind of further the advancement of the population they were serving. But additionally, just like the kind of community role that Bonner plays itself on campus. So right now we have about 31 students enrolled, and each cohort has kind of this community feeling. Bonner, I think, so I started at CNU fall of 2020. So I started in the middle of a pandemic. I was really fortunate that my service was able to be done remotely. So I didn't have to kind of risk it. But then as soon as I could, it was exciting to go into the community, to get conferences, to meet with survivors, to do all of those things. But really, I was able to just root myself in Bonner and in the work that I was doing and in the relationships that I was building. So one of our phrases in the program is that as a Bonner scholar, you're expected to assume the relationship. You're expected to talk to the person in your community, the person beside you, the person in line at a coffee shop, the person in class beside you, each other. So really just building this group of leaders who not only are important in the center and in our program, but also across the community. So the community captain that you guys heard from actually is a Bonner scholar, Chris Mojica. He's a B11 right now in the cohort below me. And yeah, just the opportunity that Bonner has given me, it really has transformed me as a person. So throughout my entire time in the program, I've been a part of the Bonner Congress team. So that's a team that looks at both internal and external kind of solutions to maybe barriers that we're facing either on campus or in the community, or ways that we can just improve how the program is run. So we take feedback from all Bonner students, from all campus students, and think about really what can we do to enhance the way that this relationship works both with the campus and with the community. And then that really is one of my favorite things about Bonner, that it is student run. It is obviously Vanessa and Jesse do a lot of work for us, but they are open and receptive to our ideas. They're encouraging of us. They encourage that kind of growth for us. I also have had this specific year the opportunity to work as a senior Bonner leadership team member. So I now am having the opportunity to facilitate that relationship and that growth and that development for other students. And it really just goes with the Bonner mission of, you come in your freshman year kind of like, what am I doing? Like, this is an awesome opportunity, but what is it going to look like? And you finish the program your senior year. I would say that I'm a completely different and better person than I was when I started the program.
Yeah, Bonner really is a developmental program. There's even a developmental model we follow. So we don't want our Bonners doing work like this across their 4 years. Their trajectory is like this. So they really, I mean, you came in just right off the bat, jumping into some really deep work. And one other thing before you keep talking is I actually met Caroline at a PLP and honors visitation day as a prospective student. And even then she was talking about the work she had done, I think in Richmond, working with survivors of human trafficking. So it's very common for Bonners to come in and kind of already know what they're interested in, or maybe, you know, have a career in mind. You knew you wanted to be a social work major, but the flip side of that is we also have Bonners come in who have no idea what they want to do. And it's really, really interesting to see how those Bonners, many of them have been so impacted by their work in the community that has actually led to their pathway through academics and into their life after CNU as well.
Yeah, so the work really has been impactful. I also have had the opportunity to work with Youth Volunteer Corps as a team leader and just working with their core team, which has just been amazing. As Vanessa said, I kind of have always had this passion for service and this interest in serving the community that I'm a part of. I think it's important to recognize the impact that I have on my community and my community has on me, even if it's for the 4 years that I'm here, right? So I have been able to kind of inspire that passion for other students now. Youth Volunteer Corps works with middle and high schoolers to get them engaged in long-term repeated service projects. So it's a Saturday here and there, a Thursday here and there, where we see the same students. We serve similar populations. Students get to know the community that they're in a little better, and they get to look at it through intentional service learning. So starting that as young as we possibly can and just encouraging that love for service and for community. And that really has been an amazing opportunity. All of my time in Bonner has been centered around getting to know myself and my community and getting to know, love, and serve all in the same place. And it really has been an honor to be a Bonner Scholar, for sure.
That's awesome. Can you talk about your capstone?
Yes. So my capstone work was a little bit with what I was talking about with Free Kind. But essentially your capstone takes these 3 things, we call it your palette. So it's your academic interest, your personal interest, and a need that your service site has, and you combine it into one project. So mine was researching recidivism and how to prevent survivors of human trafficking from being from repeat incarceration and repeat criminal justice involvement. In addition to introducing trauma-informed care and protocols to jails to avoid re-traumatization for individuals who are in the criminal justice continuum. So just figuring out the best way to serve these individuals and as members of the community, and then creating the best possible off-ramps for individuals once they leave. So the best reentry programs for them to kind of resume the community and resume normal life once they leave the criminal justice system.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, our Bonners have a cornerstone experience each year that relates to where they are on that developmental model. And for our seniors, that is completing that capstone project. And in just a few weeks, our seniors will be delivering their presentations of learning, where they talk about their experience from the program and their capstone work. Yeah. Great. Anything else you would add? You good?
I think that's everything for me.
Okay. We're ready for questions.
Fantastic. Well, I can tell you right off the bat, I am a much more learned soul now as a result of what I have heard, and I thought I could speak to the program a lot more, but I just got schooled, and thank you for that. The box for you to ask questions is open, and we've received several that have already come in, so I'm going to start with those. And the last question that came in, of course, speaks to my heart the most. So I'm going to lead with that one. I call it moderator privilege. Does the center maintain a network of Bonner Scholar alumni that can be called upon to help mentor current students in the program?
So the short answer to that is yes. We are so fortunate to have long-lasting relationships with our Bonner alums. I actually just reached out. Caroline said B11, so we call our cohorts by the number of cohort that they are within the program. So Caroline is part of the 10th Bonner, so she's a B10. I just actually reached out to one of our B2s to speak to another Bonner about what that B2 had been doing out in the career-wise after CNU, because our current Bonner is considering that as well and had some questions. So we are very, very fortunate to have a very engaged Bonner alumni group.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How do you reach out to community organizations to create service opportunities?
Great question. Well, when I started in the center, I want to say we had about 40 partners. And so for over the last 5 years, we've gone from 40 to 112 as of right now. So a lot of that is being out in the community and talking to people, meeting people. A lot of that has also been word of mouth. So, nonprofits talk to nonprofits. There's an organization called Network Peninsula that supports our nonprofit folks on the peninsula. So we've been members of Network Peninsula, and they get the word out about some of the work that we do. And we are communicating regularly with our community partners, and asking about opportunities that they have, whether it's ongoing, whether it's in a one-time event they have going up. So we really treasure the relationships we've been able to build with our nonprofit partners, and that's what makes it possible for us to be able to offer all the opportunities that we do. And these opportunities, this is really important, excuse me, I'm gonna need some water, are all community requested. Our center is never going to go out into the community and say, hey, we have 100 students who need 10 hours. What do you got for us? Right? We are all about the community telling us what they need. And that happens through building and maintaining those relationships. And we're always ready for more.
And how do you match students with those opportunities?
Some of it happens organically. It kind of depends on the opportunity. So we have, like I said, our cnuengage.org site. All of our partners are on there. There's also a tab where students can click on for opportunities. So current opportunities will be listed there so students can see them. Students are also encouraged to browse those partners. They can also search by what we call service track. So if someone wants to work with youth, they can search just for the organizations that are in our youth development and education track. And then they're encouraged to just reach out because, all of our partners have needs. So to absolutely reach out and say, hey, I am really interested in working with children. I'm, a sophomore at CNU, and, is there a way I can get connected with you? So all of that information is provided on the website. The other ways we do that is sometimes an opportunity will come in that we know is tailored for like maybe a certain academic center, a certain academic department, and then we will target those departments and contact them and say, hey, this great opportunity for one of your students came up. Do you have anyone in mind, or can we advertise it, through your department?
All right, a couple challenge questions, not how you might think in a challenge. So the first is, what is the greatest need or challenge within the Newport News community currently?
Wow, that is such a great question. The greatest need. I can tell you what is most requested from us when we talk to community partners is they are always looking, the very first request they have is for committed, consistent volunteers. And that is why the center is always encouraging our students to find their service home while they're here at CNU. Are there one-time event-based things that partners need help with? Absolutely. But where they really need the help is that student volunteer who's going to commit, even if it's for a semester, commit to being there at a certain time every week, so they can count on that person. The next request I get, and they're probably tied, is for social media and marketing help and for technical support. So that's just volunteer need for the area. Newport News in and of itself is pretty much like any other city in the United States facing the same exact challenges. We have areas of the city, right? Like any city, you can look across the United States, probably across the world. There are areas of the city that are disproportionately Black and brown communities that are disproportionately experiencing housing insecurity, food insecurity, access to education, access to healthcare, and those are the big needs in our community. How can we help those folks in our community get access to the healthcare that they need so that they can go on and do different things that they may want to do, and something really important like working, right? You have to be healthy in order to be able to work. You need to have access to education in order to perhaps do the kind of work that you want to do. And when you don't have those doors open to you, that disproportionately affects big parts of our communities, and Newport News is no different than any other. And it's really important. It's right when you get done, you think about service and volunteering, right? This is the real work, is how can that work get down to those deeper underlying, like the root causes that have led communities to be like this, and then what can we do to address them and to help folks.
All right, we move on to the next sort of challenge. Is what is the center's greatest challenge right now?
Well, I don't think I'm ever comfortable talking about money, but that is one of our greatest challenges right now. I think one of, as far as the Bonner program goes, one of the great misconceptions is that we are funded by the Bonner program, and we are not. One interesting thing about the Bonner Foundation is when Mr. and Mrs. Bonner started it, they funded about 22 schools, and they remain funded by the Bonner program. But the model of Bonner was so impactful for students and for the community that they wanted other schools to be able to do it. They just couldn't provide the financial support for it. So we don't receive that support, but we are treated exactly like those original 22 Bonner schools. And now there are, do the math, 38 other schools that also don't receive that funding, but we receive all of the staffing support, all of the curriculum and materials, everything from the Bonner Foundation that allow us to do this. So yeah, we are always looking for ways to make sure that we can select a full cohort every year. We select up to 10 incoming students per year. And this program, when you see the impact of it on our students, we should be thinking about how we can take 20, 25, how we can make other programs Bonner-like. So the other challenge the center absolutely faces is transportation, which I mentioned before, just physically being able to get our students out into the community in such a way that they can serve regularly with community partners. I'd say those two are the biggest challenges we have right now.
So, Vanessa, you have been here now 10 years. What is your dream for 10 years from now? What does the program look like in 2034?
Fantastic. Specifically for the Bonner program, it would be to be fully funded. And, my big vision would be for more students to be able to have this experience, which of course would require more infrastructure around it with more staff. More holistically for community engagement, just touched on that broad range of programs that we have. So to have that full range of programs that support our students in doing the different pathways to service, right? This deep committed service, you've done community-based research, project development, there's a community engaged learning part of Bonner. And that's both in the community with your partner while you're serving, and our first year Bonners take Intro to Civic Engagement and Social Justice together. We have the Service Distinction Program, which works a little more at the indirect service level, but how can we, my vision is big with a lot of different pathways that also support civic engagement with students that work in voter education and registration and accessibility, bolstering the support for our students who do social action and advocacy work. And then largely really expanded community engaged learning. I mean, just making that so much bigger than it is right now. If you want to go full vision, boy, can you imagine if students had to take a community engaged learning class? I think DEI wise, and curriculum wise, and experiential learning wise, like that is a win-win, win-win. Higher ed is facing some significant challenges right now with what it's going to look like in the future. And I truly believe a big part of that has to be experiential learning. Like, what else are we doing to develop our students outside of what they're learning in the classroom? And I think community engaged learning is a huge part of that. So just really to take everything we're doing and just elevate it to a whole nother level.
That is a beautiful vision, for certain. All right, last question. Last question is how, and I understand financial treasure could be one of these answers, but you already talked about that. How can alumni best support the center now that they are not students? Is it mentoring, volunteering alongside? How can they be engaged?
Absolutely. Yes. All of the above. Gosh, I don't know if alumni know the impact that they have. So I even think, having alumni that come back as part of speaker series that talk about the service they did here and what they're doing out in the community and what it looks like to be, to be the citizen, like we're always telling our students, like we're trying to help them be, right? To have them come back and do that. I would love to have more alumni connected with the center and I'd love to hear more about really that time part and talent part is huge, because I would love to know where more alumni, whether local, great for our students we have here, but in other areas, our students, go home to Richmond and Northern Virginia and other places. So to have an alumni network to say, hey, did you know these alums are serving at these nonprofits in these areas? Imagine students going home for breaks who live in Richmond, and we can say, hey, here are some organizations where CNU alums are serving or are on the boards, whatever they're doing there. So you could serve there over break, alongside a CNU alum. I think that would be incredible. I think that'd be really cool.
Wow. I think you're speaking to the exact part of the Alumni Society as far as that kind of network to grow. Vanessa and Caroline, thank you. Thank you so very much for today's discussion. And of course, thanks for everybody who joined us today. We are all more learned souls and so thankful that service is one of our pillars and woven into this Christopher Newport experience. To stay connected, what's that? Sorry.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
To stay connected with what is happening for the Center for Community Engagement, visit, as Vanessa said earlier, cnuengage.org. Supporting this program with your time, talent, and treasure can make a huge impact on the lives of our current students and, of course, the greater Hampton Roads community and beyond. Our next talk will be hosted by the Richmond, Virginia Alumni Chapter and feature our Director of Athletics, Kyle McMullen. Be on the lookout for an invite to join us either in person or via Zoom. Again, thank you for joining, and we'll be seeing you soon.